Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to start to tackle the next service on my wife's 2010 Prius. She's quickly approaching 160,000 miles on it, and so I need to go ahead and change out or swap the EGR cooler and EGR valve, intake manifold, and do the cleaning on those. So I have a second set already clean and ready to go, so it's a quick swap over on those parts. But at this point too, it's getting up in miles, so I am also going to replace the water pump and the thermostat on this. There's been a couple of times where she saw the coolant temperature rise a little bit and then come back down, so I'm not sure if the water pump is showing signs of starting to fail or if it's a thermostat issue, but I'm going to go ahead and take care of both of those. So I have new parts ready to go for those, and so I'm going to swap those in also. And I am also going to replace the PCV valve, because the last time I did that was gosh, I'm trying to remember, at I think around 100,000 miles. So if I'm in there and I got the intake manifold off, it's cheap, so I'll go ahead and throw a new one on there too. So anyway, let me show you what I got here. Here is my bag of parts. So I've got my intake manifold. This is actually the original one that came with the car. The one that's on there now is the second one I bought so I could take my time and clean this. So this is all clean now. I did a video on it and cleaning the parts, so it is ready to go. Here is my original cooler. I did do one thing though on this one, and I cut off, let's see where it went. I cut off the tab for the bolt from hell because I'm not attaching those anymore, so I thought I don't need the bracket on there, it just gets in the way. So I used my Dremel and a cutting wheel and cut it off, and then a grinding wheel and just grinding it down on there so it was nice and smooth. Here is EGR valve cleaned out. Not much to do on that, but here is the new thermostat I picked up. It's kind of interesting. This is the first time I've ever seen a thermostat where it just wasn't a thermostat, it's a whole housing. So, and then here is the water pump. So, there's the water pump all wrapped up, and with a new gasket for that. So, and then I have replacement gaskets for other things. So like here's the gasket for the intake manifold right there. So these are the various gaskets and whatnot that I will need to do this job. First thing we need to do is to get kind of in this area is we need to remove the wiper towel. And so I'm going to go through this a little quicker than I normally would. I've done this in more detail. So first of all, just unsnap the cover there. This is a 14 millimeter plug, or
take that off. So this one has 14s.
Just come right off. This one just lifts right up and out. This one you kind of want to push down on and rotate, and then you can pop it off. Then this plastic piece is what the next thing is going to come off, and there are two little clips, and depending on the type of clip, but you just want to remove those. There's one on each side. Once you have those undone, then this will kind of unsnap just by lifting up on it and up and out per se. What I tend to do is I tend to just kind of lift it in the middle and kind of bend it a little bit and it pops right out. Now you can see your wiper motor assembly here, and then the steel tray that needs to come out. And then we have free access. Everybody kind of worries about taking this out, but it's very easy. So these are all 10mm bolts. So we will just take these out real quick. We'll take that one's for the wiper motor first so we can get that out. And there are 3 of them on this side, and there's one up in the far right corner. There is the wiring harness to deal with. So now here's this. Let me just lay this off to the side. Okay. Now that the harness is out of the way, this will slide to the left and out. There is a grommet here that fits in a little fitting back there. To get this tray out, there's just a whole mess load of 10mm bolts in there, so it's just a matter of getting them all out. That is it. Once all those are out, then just lift up. These little pieces will fold down there on the left into the middle, and then this just comes straight up. There we go. So to start to get this out, there's some bolts we need to take off. We want to go ahead and remove the hose. You can do this from either side, I suppose. And then let's go ahead and loosen this. It holds that on. And there is a hose that you can unclip from the side of that. And you want to take the cover off of this and your air filter out. The easiest way to do this is actually to undo this clamp, loosen that, and then lift this up, pull it out. I'll just get this out of the way. There we go. So this is your MAF connector right here. So you just want to go ahead and pinch and release this. There we go. So that pulls this out of the way. Go ahead and lift your air filter out. And the reason you got to do this is because there's 2 bolts here that hold this down. So let's loosen this one. And I just leave them right in the box. This other one though, you need a longer extension. Make sure that'll come loose. And this is where you can release this hose that wraps around. And lift that and get it clear. So, there we go. Oh, I missed one. one more right here, just to the left of the dip. There we go. So now the rest of this can come out freely. And boy, just from that, it's amazing how much space you have. You also see, now we see our intake manifold, which now is very easy to get to. And here's our water pump. So let me show you here. So here's the water pump right there. Very easy to get to now. And here is the intake manifold right here. So we're going to take that completely out and off. Here's this tube right here. You can see the tube that runs from the EGR valve around into the intake manifold. This is what leads to the very small inlet tubes on the intake manifold, and they get all clogged up and dirty. That's why you have to take this off and clean those out. So, and then the EGR cooler is right there on the back. So, and that is going to be what we're doing. So none of this is difficult, guys. I really want to stress that. This is just nuts and bolts for the most part that you're going to be doing. Yes, you got to clean the stuff and reassemble it, but this is not rocket science. So now we can see everything though. So now we can truly start to loosen things so we can get things out of the vehicle. So let's go ahead and get started on this next step. There is a large clamp. This is on the base right above the throttle body. So you can see this clamp right here. If you just use some pliers, you can clamp it together, and there's actually a clip, and it will clip it and keep it open so that you can pull off this piece of tubing and have access to the throttle body. I want to show you guys, so I clamped off. So there's this line right here that goes to there. I clamped that off. It's a coolant line. And there's another one that goes to the top right here. And that is right here. And I clamped that off also. Always get a little coolant spill anyway. And then right behind it, you see this one right here? So this is actually the line that goes back in to your intake manifold from your PCV valve. Now, if you add a oil catch can, this is so here is the tube coming from my catch can, or going to the catch can from the PVC, or from the PCV valve, and then this is coming from the oil catch can, and it leads right back into there. So my catch can is right over here. So there's those two lines. One goes to the PCV valve that is located behind the intake manifold. You'll see it when we pull that off. And then it routes right there. It literally looks like a U, the original tube. So just wanted to point that out. So we'll go ahead and remove this clamp and slide that tube off also. And on this, you can see that's the entry point right there. What I'm going to do next here is I'm going to take this little cover off right here, and then we can take off the bolts from the EGR valve tube here to the intake manifold. And then the intake manifold will essentially be free, and then we can just loosen the 5 bolts and pull it out. And that, be amazed, that makes this whole engine bay look so open. And the key is never to drop the screw. Okay, so there's this piece. I'm just going to stick that screw right back into it there. And that's just a cover that is used for attaching the wire harness to in 2 different spots. So, and what that does now is that frees up, and you can see the tube right here for where the goes from the EGR to the intake. So there's 2 bolts on either side, so we can actually take those 4 bolts out and slide that tube out and not have to worry about that. Okay. Here is the EGR tube. Yeah, so I'll get that all cleaned out too. With all of those things easily out of the way, I can get to this bolt right under here so that valve is free. So okay. There we go. There are 5 nuts and bolts here. The 2 far outer ones and the middle one are the bolts, and the 2nd and 4th one are nuts. So, and that makes it nice because when you're putting it back in, you can just kind of set it on those 2, and it uses them as holders, placeholders kind of. So once you get those off of there, then you should be able to pull this out, just kind of work that harness around there like you saw me do, and then just lift this out. Whoops, I got one more hose down here. Okay, this is coming from that sensor that bolts to the side of it, so this is not fluid. And if you use some pliers to kind of twist the hose, then it will pop off of there fairly easily. There we go. Okay, and there is our intake manifold. So, oh, how funny. The gasket actually stayed on the engine. One thing that I am doing with this, in addition to the manifold and swapping out the clean parts for the EGR system, is I am doing the water pump and the thermostat, as I had said earlier. So one thing I want to do is I want to drain out the coolant. So I took off the bottom tray from underneath the engine, and if you are changing the water pump, that will also give you an additional angle, I guess I should say, to get to some of the bolts that are underneath it. So let me grab the new one, I'll show you what I mean. The water pump sits in the car like this. So here's the top of it right here, and here's the bottom of it. So when you take off the lower pan, some people might find it easier to get to these lower bolts from underneath. Now, this one right here, you can see right there. So that's to the side. So that's easy to get. So these two right here are easily visible. This one is not. You can see it from below, or you can just feel for it. And then this one right here is going to be on the inside. You can easily see this. So this, and this are easily seen. Then you can feel for these two, or you can try to do them. Now the downside is coming from below. You do have the AC compressor that is in the way too. So, but if you kind of move your head around, you can see and get a different angle. So that's another option for you. So here is the drain for the radiator. So with a little twist of that, you'll start to drain that out. And then what you want to do is come up here and loosen this so that the air, there you go, you can hear it flow faster. There you go. There we go. So, since I knew I would have the intake manifold off, I did order a new PCV valve, and it is right here. Super easy to get to with the intake manifold off, so I might as well replace it while I'm in there. So I just need to loosen this clamp right here, slide off the hose. This is a 22 millimeter that you need, so 22 millimeter socket. And undo that, and we'll thread in the new one. Okay, I don't think there's anything wrong with this one, but for under $10, it's just silly not to replace it. If you don't have an oil catch can, this is what the normal hose looks like, and it goes from here like this right into your intake manifold. Now I have an oil catch can, so that's why we route the hose from here. It just goes in line. Hose runs up to the oil catch can, and then this comes down. And if you notice, what I did here is this is the same hose as the OEM one. So I took an OEM one and I cut it right here because the OEM one is a weird size. See, it's two different sizes. On the intake manifold, it's much larger. So I just cut that, did half of that, and spliced the two hoses together. I think it was a 3/8 piece from hose to hose, and that made it perfect. And then this goes on the intake just like the OEM one did. It was perfect. So couldn't have been any smoother. So then just get that lined up. So I figure I might as well start working on removing the EGR valve and the EGR cooler down there. So one of the things you want to do is you want to remove this 10mm bolt. That'll remove this bracket here, and then we can pinch this here and remove this fitting there from the EGR. We got to remove this nut and stud. Removing the stud makes it a lot easier because then you can lift straight up. Don't lose the gasket that's there for the tube. And so there are two tubes right here, this one and this one, that go onto the pipe assembly of the EGR cooler. And there are in the back, I don't know if you guys see if I can get my fingers on them. So right there, right where my finger's touching, right there, there's a nut and a stud, and there's another one down below it. There's two of them. And there's another hose right here. So this hose and this hose are coolant hoses. And those, this is how this sits. So this is a coolant hose, and then this is a coolant hose right here. So that's those two hoses you see. And then the two in the front, right here and right here, that's these two coolant hoses. So these, the bolt and the studs that Toyota uses are the inverse or female torques. And so I ended up going down and buying a set because when I first started working on this car, I didn't have a set, so I needed them. There we go. I'll just break that loose. There we go. There we go. And you can see how long that sucker is. This bracket right here loose. Taking that. That's just a 10mm bolt right there. Snap, there we go. So there is that off. Just one thing at a time. So we've got the two hose clamps that are the two, hose clamps that we need to loosen so we can get those hoses off. We've got this one back here that we need to do. Okay, guys, now I need to do the two in the back to break those loose. Those are the same, they're a stud like that. So, need to get those, because then that whole assembly will come out once we get rid of the hose connection. Now it just twisted. Okay, so that's good. So, yeah, once it twists like that, then you know you got it beat. Now, yep, see, now it's sliding off easily. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so now let's try for the little one off to the side here. Oh, good, that just twisted. Hey, that popped off easy. There we go. littler hose, not so much drop. So there you can see it. So right here, and I've got this loose, so I can get that one out, and I got the one below it loose. But if you see the pipe, here's the pipe right here, that kind of gets in the way when I'm trying to get a wrench or something else. The top one is more exposed. That's a lot easier. But the bottom one is the tricky one. So as you can see, trying to see what I'm doing is hard. So I'm going to work on those off camera, but that's what I'm doing. Okay, you can see in the back there that it is loose right back there. No more stud. Both of them are out. Got this hose to pop off. The hose clamp is off, and I've got, you can see that one right there, that hose clamp is off, and so I just need to pull it off of there, and it will be completely free, and we can pull out the EGR valve and cooler as one assembly. Okay, all right guys, so now I just gotta finagle this sucker out of there. This is why, I'll do it on this one too, but this is why, I'll show you here. This is why I cut this off, because I'm not using that stud anymore, or that nut, so it's just easier not to mess with it. Whoops. Sorry about that. So, and it just gets in the way. So, but there you see how the whole EGR cooler and valve work together, all as one unit. So, oh yeah, let me get some light on this and I'll show you. This is why you got to do this, guys. I don't know if you can, how well you can see in there, but I mean, it's not plugged, and that's good. You don't want it to get plugged, but there's definitely plenty of carbon in there and stuff. So, but it looks like this is going to be a pretty good service interval, about 75 to 80,000 miles. So if I can get the right angle of light, yeah. It'll be easier when I unbolt it from the EGR valve. See if we can see any light through there. I mean, it, you know, it's not, like I said, it's not jammed up yet, clogged up, so, or what it doesn't appear to be anyway, so, and that's good. You don't want it to be, because if this is what is so critical, guys, to your head gasket not going bad. 5,000 mile oil changes, servicing this every 75 to 80,000 miles, and cleaning the intake manifold at the same time. Doing that, and the oil catch can really helps too. You guys do those things, this head gasket will not give you issues. And this is not terribly difficult. In fact, once you do it the first time's the worst, because you're going to have to deal with the bolt from hell. But once you're done with that, once you get it out the first time, never have an issue with that again, because you're never going to mess with it. So there's no need. That thing's not going anywhere. So you can kind of see where the whole thing sits in there. There's the, you see there's the tube at the back end there where the EGR cooler attaches to it. Personally, I wish there was a way that you could just bypass the whole damn thing and it wouldn't have any negative effects. I'll be honest, I don't know if it would or not. If any of you know anything about that or have heard of anybody doing it or whatnot, that sure would be great to know. So, but hey, but that's out. And now it's going to be time to put those in. So I've got new gaskets. These are metal gaskets, and you could probably actually reuse them, but I've kind of gotten in the habit of just buying a new one because they're not that expensive. I just want to attempt to show you guys, if you are trying to get the bolt, what we call the bolt from hell out, this one right here, that is so hard to get to. I've got the screwdriver pointed right to it right now. So it's so hard to see it right there. It's all the way down right here, just on the other side of this hose right here. That's where it is. And when all these hoses are in there and the cooler is sitting there, you can't see it. I mean, it's hard to even feel it. It is just tucked completely up and under there. And once you get rid of this and don't use it anymore, and then once you cut it off like I did on this one right here, and I will do on this one too, it slides in and out so quick, so easy, it's just no big deal. So I just wanted to show everybody though how hard that is. It's impossible to show people where it is when you're trying to first do it, because this is open now and it's hard to get the right angle. So I just wanted to give everybody a little visual on that. Hope that helps. But get it off once and you're in good shape, because that's the toughest part of the job.